record.
Wait, I'm not even.
All right.
Got it.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, my friends. Welcome to today's podcast. My name is Bhakti Jake, and I am joined with many guests and somewhere in the heartlands of Arizona. If you guys want to just real quick say hello to everybody.
Hi, Hare Krishna. I am Kirtaneshwar Garangadas. I'm a brahmachari at the ISKCON Tucson, and I'm happy to be here.
Jai. Who else is there?
Hare Krishna. My name is Atista Giri. My name is Atista Giri Haridas. I am God brothers with these two here. I'm also in Tucson, Arizona. It's nice to meet you, Dr. Jacob.
Yeah, you too. Nice to meet you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai. See you, Rad Rad.
Jai, and I'm Das. Very happy. Oh, there you go. That was nice. Yeah, for our second session. So, yeah, let's just recap, because I'd like to hear these two Prabhu's thoughts before we continue reading. Yesterday we read Words from an Apple, how everybody is looking for Krishna. And actually, Kirtan Yoga Prabhu was talking about that in the beginning of his talk yesterday. So I thought that was really nice. And that's something that we didn't really get into, but maybe Kirtan, if you want to say some things about that, some realize that they are, or some don't realize, right, that they are, but actually the pleasure that we're looking for in life is Krishna.
Well, I mean, first thing I could say about that particular part of the Krishna book is that's by George Harrison. And that's a big part of the reason I'm a devotee is because I'm a massive, I still am a massive fan of the Beatles. Almost like I was picking up in a past life. I was so obsessed with the Beatles from age probably 11 till 18 until I became a devotee. I was a lover of the Beatles. So George Harrison inspired me. And that album that he wrote shortly after this was published, All Things Must Pass, that album changed my life because I was listening to these songs and they're just like normal songs from that time period. I was starting to realize that these songs are about Krishna. They're not normal love songs. They're not songs that are just about a girl or a boy. They're about Krishna. Especially there's a song, I Live for You. And I was realizing, oh, this song's about God. And it was a whole revelation for me that I can actually feel this way about God. That was like the biggest revelation I ever had, was I don't have to be scared of God. I don't have to think of God as a judge, but I can think of God as my friend, as my lover. And George Harrison wrote that into his songs. And that's really what started me, just made me obsessed with Krishna consciousness. That's when I started really, I'd read Bhagavad Gita before, but I started reading it time and time again, and then getting the Krishna book. So everybody does want Krishna because everybody wants love. That's why everything we see, all the songs, all the media, everything is fueled by the desire for pleasure. So everybody's looking for Krishna. Everybody wants pleasure, and Krishna is the source of pleasure. So every living being, no matter what they are, is seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. And that desire is fulfilled in Krishna. What's the Vedic aphorism? Anandamayo Vyasat. Everybody's looking for pleasure. So everybody's looking for pleasure, and the source of pleasure is Krishna because he's the source of everything. So devotional service, which is what this entire bhakti-yoga is meant to do. Devotional service is, how do I say it? It's under the jurisdiction of Srimati Radharani, who is the personification of the Hladini Shakti, or the internal potency of the Lord. So the pleasure potency is what she's called. She's called the pleasure potency. So when one performs devotional service, they're being put under the jurisdiction of Radharani and that pleasure potency. And therefore, we're giving pleasure to Krishna, and Krishna is giving pleasure to us. This is the relationship of love between the living entity, and that constitutes the highest enlightenment possible for a living entity in the material world. So it's a simple statement, but it's the ultimate truth, and everybody's looking for Krishna.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it boils down to, really. You know, it's funny because when I had heard about so many bands, you know, when I was growing up, and you know, obviously I knew about the Beatles and all that, but it's so amazing, like the connection, and it's so amazing, like these are connections that are lasting for years. You know, I mean, I'm 45 years old, and I mean, and this stuff is like they were doing this, and it's 2023 now, and they were doing this back in the 60s and 70s. You know, it's amazing. I think it's a testament to the Krishna conscious movement and Krishna consciousness altogether. It's a testament to the timeliness and how long real faith in God can last for, because so many things in this world do not last for 50 years, you know, like nothing in this world seems to be very stable at all. And quite honestly, I guess by now we all know that's true. So it's amazing. This introduction, I was so pumped on reading this yesterday. And I don't know if you guys, I guess you guys heard it. So do you want to go ahead and say the opening prayers, and do you want to move on? Or does anyone have anything else to say about the introduction too? Because it's funny, it's so potent. I mean, the introduction to Krishna book is potent, you know?
Yeah, and we still have a whole preface and an introduction.
Yeah.
So yeah, why don't we go ahead and
the other guy just walked into the frame. I thought he was somewhere else.
No. Yeah, I'm trying to.
Then he just casually walks in and sits down. I'm like, oh, okay.
You know, Jake, you walk in and like
We're still in the same room.
Oh my goodness. I wish I could, believe me.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Shall we read the preface?
So we're gonna, Om Namo Om Gyana, Om Namo Namo Om Vanchakapa, Jai Shri Krishna.
I was thinking, are you forgetting the prayers? You just like Tat Savitor
Abba Vichova. How's it go?
Right. We want to say, or I should say.
I'll good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Jai Mukunda Prabhu, welcome. We're just
Hare
getting
Krishna.
started with our Hare Krishna, and then we can all chant along together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jai.
Jai. Reading from Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Are we on the
Yeah, so preface. Ashraya, you want to? We'll just do 2 paragraphs, unless you want to read more, and then rotate. So you can read the first page.
Can I read that Sanskrit sloka?
Yeah.
Nirvitatasa Rupagyamanad Yamanad
Bhavashadat Chotramano Biramat
Kautama Shloka Gunanuvadat Puman Vijayeta Vina Pashunat. In the Western countries, when someone sees the cover of a book like Krishna, he immediately asks, "Who is Krishna? Who is the girl with Krishna?" etc. The immediate answer is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is that? Because he conforms in exact detail to the descriptions of the Supreme Being, the Godhead. In other words, Krishna is the Godhead because he is all attractive. Outside the principle of all attraction, there is no meaning to the word of Godhead. How is it one can be all attractive? First of all, if one is very wealthy, if he has great riches, he becomes attractive to people in general. Similarly, if someone is very powerful, he also becomes attractive. And if someone is very famous, he also becomes attracted. And if someone is very beautiful or wise or unattached to all kinds of possessions, he also attractive due to wealth, power, fame, beauty, wisdom, and renunciation. One who is in possession of all 6 of these opulences at the same time, who possesses them in an unlimited degree, is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These opulences of the Godhead are delineated by Parsharamuni, a great Vedic authority. We have seen many rich persons, many powerful persons, many famous persons, many beautiful persons, many learned and scholarly persons, and persons in the renounced order of life, unattached to material possessions. But we have never seen any one person who is unlimitedly and simultaneously wealthy, powerful, famous, beautiful, wise, and unattached, like Krishna. In the history of humanity, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the history of humanity, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, is an historical person who appeared on this earth 5,000 years ago. He stayed on this earth for 125 years and played exactly like a human being. But his activities were unparalleled. From the very moment of his appearance to the moment of his disappearance, every one of his activities is unparalleled in the history of the world. And therefore, anyone who knows what we mean by Godhead will accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to the Godhead, and no one is greater than him. That is the import of the familiar saying, God is great.
So anytime anyone can just jump in with comments or questions, whatnot.
I just admire, actually I have a confession that I've read the Krishna book many, many times. Many times. And I've not read the preface.
Really? Wow.
So, you're muted, Jake.
Oh,
is he?
Right.
Yeah, yes.
Doesn't show that he is.
Oh, speak. Oh, is it doing this? Yeah, my computer does this sometimes.
Oh no.
He
Yeah.
can hear us though, because he was laughing.
I know
when
he can
said
hear
that.
us. We can't hear him.
Yes.
He can hear me.
Can speak again?
Hey, guys.
What?
Hello.
That's the whole audio.
Oh, what about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. You're good. We're good. We can make it work.
Wow.
Although
Wow. That was. Now I can't hear you guys.
Yeah.
oh, okay, there we go.
Prabhupada is so straightforward with his approach. Prabhupada is going directly at it. He's saying, who is Krishna? In short, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Mm.
That we're seeing who is the Supreme Person.
No holds barred.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much here too, just in those couple of paragraphs. I mean, yeah, he is really just coming out and just saying, you know, hey, this is where it's at. This is what it is. This is very interesting. This is my first time reading the Krishna book, period, like at all. I have read little bits and bobs of it from a group that I was in, but that's how I was like, whoa, this is so interesting, you know? And that's why I wanted to read it, because there's just something about it that is just so, it's friendly. I guess it's friendly, it's fun. And by friendly, I mean like it is enough to take someone who is relatively new to bhakti-yoga and take them and kind of say, hey, isn't this interesting? Like, check this out. Like that's what I mean by it's friendly like that. It's user friendly, I guess you would say.
Approachable.
Be very careful with the Krishna. Be very careful with the Krishna book, because if you read the Krishna book, you'll become a devotee of Krishna. And if you become a devotee of Krishna, that means all your material desires will go away. When I first, actually, I had got the Bhagavad Gita.
It's all the way down.
And when I got it, I read it quite a few times, but it didn't inspire me to become a devotee. And when I met the first devotee I met, because I got the Bhagavad Gita from my brother, not from a devotee, so I was just reading without any devotee association. And then when I met the first devotee, I came across a book distributor in college, His Grace Govinda Prabhu, who will be in Tucson tomorrow. He said, oh, have you read Bhagavad Gita? I said, oh, yeah, I love Bhagavad Gita. It's my favorite book. It's the only book I brought with me from home. And he said, oh, wonderful. So he said, have you read the Krishna book? I said, what's the Krishna book? He said, oh, this is all about Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's activities. I thought, wow, God has activities? This is fantastic. So I gave him $20 right there. And he said, anybody who reads this book becomes a devotee. Prabhupada said that. So then it took me like 3 years to read it. I was initiated like a few months after finishing the Krishna book. So that's, to show that, that book was just, as I read the Krishna book, I just became more and more inspired to chant, more and more inspired to do devotional service. And the Krishna book taught me how to pray, because the Krishna book consists of Krishna's devotees praying to Krishna. So you pray, you first glorify Krishna, you glorify his attributes, you understand your position. All the devotees in Krishna book take a very humble position. And I started to pray in that way because I was going through a lot of hell in my life. So I prayed in that way. My dear Krishna, you're so powerful and my mind is nothing but a demon. But if you so desire, Krishna, you're the most expert demon killer. Therefore, please, if you so desire, slay this demon in my mind. And I used to pray like that. And I really felt Krishna reciprocating with me. So to me, the Krishna book was a mystical experience of reading. And it's like every page, you just can't imagine how wonderful Krishna is. And then he's more wonderful. And then it's, wow, he's such a wonderful person. And then the next page, Krishna is more wonderful.
Yeah, for me, the Krishna book, when I was first reading the Krishna book, I was like working at a hotel, and I was cooking for all these people that worked at the hotel, and it was like one of the first books actually I read. Should I put it on this one? Just turn it off. Anyways, so it's so funny because I was reading this book and I was just falling in love with Krishna, and then people would come up and I would be like crying while reading this book, or like laughing to myself. And I remember like just looking around and wishing like I would want to share it with someone, but like it was just so much to even start. I would try. I would like, you have to hear about Krishna, and I would talk about, I'd be like, yeah, this. They would ask me like, what are you reading? And I'm like, oh, I'm reading about God, as a child. And just right off the bat, it was really hard to explain, but it was so powerful because it really shows you the personality of Krishna. You see like his sense of humor, you can see how sweet he is, and just all these like different aspects of his personality. And it, just really strengthens that personal relationship with Krishna. It's so personal, actually. And it's my favorite book actually because of that. So
shall we continue reading?
Yeah, it looks like the next paragraph talks right on that topic. All right, I'll go ahead. There are various classes of men in the world who speak of God in different ways, but according to the Vedic literatures and according to the great Acharyas, the authorized persons versed in the knowledge of God in all ages, like Acharyas Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, Lord Chaitanya, and all their followers by disciplic succession, all unanimously agree that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as we, the followers of Vedic civilization, are concerned, we accept the Vedic history of the whole universe, which consists of different planetary systems called Swargaloka, or the higher planetary system, Martyaloka, or the intermediary planetary system, and Patalaloka, or the lower planetary system. The modern historians of this earth cannot supply historical evidences of events that occurred before 5,000 years ago, and the anthropologists say that 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had not appeared on this planet because evolution had not reached that point. But the Vedic histories, such as the Puranas and the Mahabharata, relate human histories which extend millions and billions of years ago into the past. Okay, so this is a very interesting point. And he's also linking the different conceptions of God with anthropology, which is a nice point. And it's reminding me of those pictures that what's his name that came with Balaram from Kanai. Yeah, he was showing pictures. Did you guys see those pictures at Sunday Feast? Of like,
I was in Phoenix.
Oh, that's right, you weren't there. He was showing us pictures of his son is an anthropologist and like went on these things,
yeah, I remember that.
Right?
Yeah,
and like a human skeleton that was like the skull was the size, it was like as big as me. It was like 6 feet tall. The skull was 6 feet tall.
Yeah, you're not 6 feet tall, you're a lot taller than that, but you're 8 feet tall.
It was okay, it's 8 feet tall. Yeah, and it's just like these are, it's like, okay, let's what's the word? It's anecdotal, but well, I mean, it's direct evidence. Like he knows this person, and sending him actual pictures. Like he knows that he is on these expeditions, so forth. So, and then there's forbidden archaeology, Michael Cremo. There's all sorts of accounts of much older than 40,000 years. There's documentation of humans existing on the planet. Yeah. So there's that, and so what Prabhupada is giving us here is he's basically establishing that everything that we're about to read is coming from a line, not just a line of history, but a line of discipleship. And that's a whole nother, very important point. But that this line accepts the Vedic understanding of the universe, and as far as its different planetary systems, and it has accounts for every detail conceivable, from time to structure of the universe to the person of Godhead himself. And so he lists the prominent acharyas in the main lines of Vedic civilization that have basically those that have retained the actual conclusion as it's come from the spiritual worlds. And these are called the Vaishnava Sampradayas. And he also lists Shankaracharya, who's not a Vaishnava Sampradaya, but he's outside of the Vaishnava Sampradayas, who accepts Krishna as the absolute truth. Shankara is the most prominent, and everyone, basically these are the authorities of spiritual knowledge, of all, categories of spiritual knowledge.
So that's coming
but yeah,
up.
it's a disciple line as well. What's that?
That's coming up in the preface, right here in the preface, pretty soon.
Yeah. No, that's what he's talking about. Yeah.
He's
We just read that.
I mean, he talks a little bit about Krishna's appearance here, but that's what we just read.
Persons versed in Vedic knowledge, like acharyas like Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, Lord Chaitanya, and their followers, unanimously agree Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right. Okay. I didn't see Chung. What? I can't even pronounce the name. I just learned about this guy yesterday too. Chunkacharya.
Chunkacharya. Listen now.
Yes, that's what it is. Don't let anyone tell you you're not pronouncing it right.
Chunkacharya.
Chunkacharya is the Conchacharya. Chanka means conch. That is not. People who know me know I'm not the Conchacharya.
Is a Chunkacharya.
Every time I try to, I'm on the altar doing arti. That sounds like a dying elephant. So one thing is though is that Shankaracharya, all these people agree Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and
especially
one of the interesting things is that when it comes to when you go into the science of consciousness, you start to have to look at things a very different way. That even if someone has a lot of material knowledge, their perceptions are not clear if their consciousness isn't high. And that's something we experience, like something like meat, for example. Meat is, for someone who's a vegetarian and has been a vegetarian for a long time, one can see that meat is a pretty disgusting thing. Why would I want to eat meat? It's dead, it's carcass, it's charred and carcinogenic and bad for the body. But the material elusive consciousness makes someone attracted to that. They think that's very good, whereas someone who's in the mode of goodness or the sattva gun, they don't have any attraction for that. Same with drugs, like why would I want to smoke cigarettes? Cigarettes, there's all these consequences for smoking cigarettes, yet some people are attracted to smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
So that's because their consciousness is polluted by the material energy. So they're not seeing things as they are. So one has to be in a certain mode or a certain level of consciousness to see things as they are. So the people who are propounding this knowledge in the world, like they're propounding what anthropologists are saying, evolution, all these different things, their consciousness is not good because they're engaged in all kinds of activities that distort the consciousness, and they're not doing any activities that are inhibiting self-realization or enhancing self-realization. Actually, everything they're doing is inhibiting self-realization. So they can't see things as they are. So because of that, they're not able to understand the truth of the Srimad Bhagavatam, of the Krishna book, of the Bhagavad Gita. And when we look at the people like Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, Lord Chaitanya, the writings of Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and Shankaracharya are so philosophically advanced. These men were super geniuses. Shankaracharya took sannyas at 12 years old. He left home at 8 years old. Madhvacharya, same. And then he became the guru of his guru because he came to his guru smarter than his guru. So you see that these men were extraordinary historical personalities. Lord Chaitanya is a historical personality. Lord Chaitanya did so many things. We hear about Krishna, people could say, oh, Krishna is a myth. They can say these things. But Lord Chaitanya was not a myth. You can go to his birthplace. You can go see the people he wrote letters to. You can see his objects. Lord Chaitanya was a real person. So these people who were on such a high level, they understood Krishna as the absolute truth. They understood things as they are. And they had extremely high moral character. And they had moral value, which is something that all of the leaders in the world in science, politics, religion, they don't have moral value. And because of that, we can understand, any person who studies consciousness can understand that their perception is unclear. And because of their unclear perception, human has 4 defects. One of them is imperfect senses. So we're hearing people who are blind, so it's the blind following the blind, but the people who are actually demonstrating moral character, moral value, real human spirit, real intelligence, the love for every living entity. And if everybody's trying to be happy, if we accept that every living entity is trying to seek pleasure, then we should understand that the most intelligent living entities are those who can find permanent and lasting pleasure. Of those who have done that, agree that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because you can see by their lives that they were always happy. So in that sense, once again, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should take it from these men who are of value, who are actually honest, who aren't cheating themselves for fame, profit, and adoration and distinction, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah. So who these guys that he was naming here, these Acharyas that he named here, these are all Vaishnav Acharyas.
Except for Shankara.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. He's the first one there. Okay, that is not how I. Okay, I see. All right.
Interesting thing about Shankaracharya is the reason Prabhupada's mentioning him is to induce those who are impersonalists to also accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because Shankaracharya is the essential founder of the impersonalist school. Yet he also accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So some of his followers don't. So Prabhupada's saying that, and he was also an incarnation of Lord Shiva who came to propagate Mayavad philosophy, and that's described in the Padma Purana.
Oh, whoa. That sounds like a whole nother can of worms right there.
Yeah.
Another ball game. That sounds like something completely different on another level. We might have to get into that later, but if you guys want to keep on reading right here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Who's going to go?
Yeah, and actually each of those personalities follow like consecutively in terms of explaining further the philosophy. Like they each countered Shankara's arguments, and then so that's a sequential list that's given. It's not just like a random ordering.
Yeah.
Or a random like wasn't.
No, you're right.
Yes.
Prabhu can read.
Okay. Can you hear me on there? Because my audio is turned off. Okay. I'll put that there so you didn't have to keep switching it like that.
Okay.
For example, from these literatures, we are given the histories of Krishna's appearances and disappearances millions and billions of years ago. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that both he and Arjuna had many births before, and that he, Krishna, could remember all of them, and that Arjuna could not. This illustrates the difference between knowledge of Krishna and that of Arjuna. Arjuna might have been a great warrior, a well-cultured member of the Kuru dynasty, but after all, he was an ordinary human being, whereas Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the possessor of unlimited knowledge. Because he possesses unlimited knowledge, Krishna has a memory that is boundless. Krishna's knowledge is so perfect that he remembers all the incidents of his appearances, some millions and billions of years in the past. But Arjuna's memory and knowledge are limited by time and space, where he is an ordinary human being. In the 4th chapter, Krishna states that he can remember instructing the lessons of the Bhagavad Gita some millions of years ago to the sun god Vijayashvan.
Wow.
Jai. Come in.
Uh-oh.
We're on a call right now. Can
I love it. Hello, Hare Krishna.
okay. Chat.
Aww.
It was him. He was knocking on my door. All right, Chase, go see mom. Go see mom.
Just been so long.
All right, continuing on.
So the sun god Vijayashvan.
Devotee babies.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's once again, Krishna and the understanding of Krishna is far beyond the bounds of human knowledge, such as past births stretching millions of years ago, and entities that live on the sun planet. That's a whole nother subject, but
Yeah, we'll continue on.
Yeah, no,
we're
we're ready.
gonna
Yeah.
go into shift.
Just
We're gonna
keep on
shift
going.
into a different topic right now.
Okay.
So I'll
Shifting.
go. Nowadays, it is the fashion. Oh, you should read, Prabhu.
Okay, I can
Yeah,
read.
Jake.
Sure. Okay. All right. Nowadays, it is the fashion of the atheistic class of men to try to become God by following some mystic process. Generally, the atheists claim to be God by dint of their imagination or their meditational prowess. Krishna is not that kind of God. He does not become God by manufacturing some mystic process of meditation, nor does he become God by undergoing the severe austerities of the mystic yogic exercises. Properly speaking, he never becomes God because he is the Godhead in all circumstances. Within the prison of his maternal uncle Kamsa, where his father and mother were confined, Krishna appeared outside his mother's body as the four-handed Vishnu Narayana. Then he turned himself into a baby and told his father to carry him to the house of Nanda Maharaj and his wife Yashoda. When Krishna was just a small baby, the gigantic demoness Putana, attempted to kill him. Sorry. But when he he sucked her breast, he pulled out her life. That is the difference between the real Godhead and a God manufactured in the mystic factory. Krishna has no chance to practice the mystic yoga process, yet he manifested himself as the supreme personality of Godhead at every step, from infancy to childhood, from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to young manhood. In this book, Krishna, all of his activities as a human being are described. Although Krishna plays like a human being, he always maintains his identity as the supreme personality of Godhead. Wow.
Wow, that's so much power.
Have you heard the pastime of Putana yet, Jacob?
I have not.
Interesting.
You know, when I first read the Krishna book, I had done something like this. I'd called Govinda Prabhu when we were reading the pastime, and he goes, "Oh, it's called Killing a Putana Demon." He goes, "Wow, wonderful chapter." And it's like where Krishna book really begins to get inconceivable.
Yeah.
So then he kills her, and she becomes 12 miles long. And I was thinking,
Yeah,
I said 12 miles, Prabhu. 12 miles. Pretty amazing, huh?
Pretty amazing.
I was thinking, I don't know if I can handle this. I closed the book for a few months after that. It's a little hard to conceive of. But actually, once you purify your consciousness, you're able to understand these things.
Yeah.
That's the process of Krishna consciousness, is that these pastimes are under the internal potency, just like you have a judge. You have a police officer, and one police officer has one jurisdiction, another police officer has another jurisdiction. So we're in one jurisdiction. We're in this elusive jurisdiction. It's pretty miraculous that there's 8 billion people in the world, and 8 billion of them are all suffering.
Yeah.
It's pretty miraculous that everybody's so unhappy in a world that's actually quite beautiful in one sense, but still everybody's suffering. That's because we're under the jurisdiction of Maya. So when one is under that divine jurisdiction, Krishna says, Daivim Prakritim Ashritaha. When one is under the shelter of that divine energy, then the laws of nature change. Now the laws of nature are Krishna. Krishna's in charge. So in that world, everything is miraculous. And devotees can experience that the more they qualify themselves to go under that divine energy, the more they experience that divine Shakti, that divine miraculous Shakti. And what's the qualification? Krishna says, Satatam Kirtayantamam. We're always chanting about Krishna, always bowing down before Krishna, always endeavoring to serve Krishna with great determination. And if one does those three things, one enters into that divine energy. And then in that world, everything's miraculous. So if you read like Indrajumna Swami or Srila Prabhupada's pastimes, they're miraculous. They're miraculous at every step because they're entering that miraculous Krishna, the Daivim Prakriti. They're under that jurisdiction. So the laws are different. So this is the supreme manifestation of that divine energy. When you read the Krishna book, you're reading the supreme, topmost, summum bonum of all divine energy manifested on the earth for the purpose of Krishna's pastimes. So it's understood with the Bhagavad Gita, with the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, right? So then by understanding this, by entering this, when you read this, it's Krishna himself. You're entering into that divine potency just by reading the Krishna book. What does Krishna say? Janma karma cha me divyam. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities upon leaving his body does not take his birth again in this material world. So just by reading the Krishna book and understanding it, we don't come back to the material world.
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing. I certainly agree with that. When you just look at Prabhupada's life and what he did, I mean, it's like so crazy when you really realize what was going on. I mean, this guy was he didn't have anything when he came to this country, like zero. He had like 2 books with him and that was it. He didn't know anybody. He could hardly speak the language, and look what happened. Here we are. I mean, that is miraculous. That is definitely entering something miraculous. That is entering a world that I guess that's like the spiritual world, I mean, I guess that's where it's at, in the spirit world, like entering that spiritual realm,
Yeah, Prabhupada didn't even have, like, when he came, he brought some like grains with him because he didn't even know if there was going to be anything to eat that wasn't meat. Like, he had really no idea what he was gonna, he didn't know what to expect, and he still.
So we're just like barbarians.
Yeah, he was going like right into my
big meat on the
caveman.
Yeah, right.
But when this point here that Prabhupada makes, where he's talking about how God never becomes God.
Yeah.
For me, when I was first coming around devotees, it's such like a very simple point. Obviously, God never becomes God, but for somebody most people they don't actually, like, when that clicked in my head, it was really powerful because I was thinking I can become just like Jesus, or if like it was like in my subconscious. It wasn't like at the forefront, but it's like it's there. Like if I just perfect myself, then I can become like and it's all for fame, adoration, profit, and distinction. But when you read like God never becomes God, it really it really opens your eyes. It also empowers you because you talk to so many people that have this mentality. I'm gonna become God, or once I just do this, then I'll become perfect. And so,
or it's like we already are God. That's
but we have to realize it. Exactly. And so that it's just like so obvious that that's not truth.
What were you gonna say, Jake?
Oh, I was just gonna definitely say yeah, absolutely to that. It's I just cannot believe he's coming out with this just in the preface. I mean, this is like super like spiritual stuff, like just right there, like boom, here you go.
These next 2 paragraphs are really powerful. So let's just hit them.
Okay, yeah.
Since Krishna is all attractive, one should know that all his desires should be focused on Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the individual person is the proprietor or master of the body, but Krishna, who is the super soul, is present in everyone's heart, is the supreme proprietor and supreme master of each and every individual body. As such, if we concentrate our loving propensities upon Krishna only, Then immediately universal love, unity, and tranquility will be automatically realized. When one waters the root of a tree, he automatically waters the branches, twigs, leaves, and flowers. When one supplies food to the stomach through the mouth, he satisfies all the various parts of the body. The art of focusing one's attention on the Supreme and giving one's love to him is called Krishna consciousness. We have inaugurated the Krishna consciousness movement so that everyone can satisfy his propensity for loving others simply by directing his love towards Krishna. The whole world is very much anxious to satisfy the dormant propensity of love for others. But the inventions of various methods like socialism, communism, altruism, humanitarianism, nationalism, and whatever else may be manufactured for peace and prosperity of the world are all useless and frustrating because of our gross ignorance of the art of loving Krishna. Generally, people who think that by advancing the cause of moral principles and religious rights they will be happy. Others may think that happiness can be achieved by economic development, and yet others may think that simply by sense gratification they will be happy. But the real fact is that people can only be happy by loving Krishna. A lot there.
I can pick it up from right here if you'd like, unless someone else wants to read.
Yeah, you can
go
teach and I can read, but
Who's you?
that's just, well, we're at like 5-minute mark. So maybe we can just discuss that.
Okay, yeah, let's do that then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just to throw in there, because I was reflecting during the class this morning when Lalita Priya was
At the end of the meeting.
yeah when she was mentioning the Dhruva. Well, yeah, there's too much there. It's okay. The Dhruva story of when Dhruva it realizes God, when God reveals himself to him face to face, how that commonly referenced aphorism. I was looking for what I thought were diamonds, but I realized they're just shards of glass. For now I've seen the real jewel, which is you. And relating that with like shards of glass, it's almost like each piece of glass is just like one facet of that diamond. And even at that, it's like it's a pale imitation of the real substance. Like the diamond is representing actual substance, like it has intrinsic value, whereas just a piece of glass has no intrinsic value. Its only gift is its property to be reflective.
And it'll cut you.
And it'll cut you. Yeah, that. So I was thinking how it's like when we're in that Maya, that illusion, we're looking into a piece of glass and we're thinking, ooh, shiny object or whatever. And whatever's there, it's just a pale reflection, actually. It's not even an imitation. It's just a reflection of the real thing, which is exhibited or is manifest in the form of that diamond. And the other thing about that,
worthless.
It has no actual value. Yeah. So there's like everything that we're seeing in the reflections, of the external world, our body, our mind, and so forth. They're all just little reflections of facets that are actually there in God, but in God is a real substance. And I was connecting that with this topic of inconceivability. That God has, possessor of unlimited knowledge, boundless, so many qualities that, we can't even imagine. And just how it's like only when your consciousness becomes purified, it's explained that, our consciousness becomes purified, then instead of the objects of its meditation, that which it's dwelling upon being like 3-dimensional and of this world, it can actually hold polydimensional objects. That's the ability of the chitta, the consciousness. So we can actually experience, we can see, with our with our consciousness, we can see things that are inconceivable. You know, we can experience things that are totally beyond this world. You know, Krishna, we can actually experience Krishna, and all the things that are in this book. You know, it's like so inconceivable, but we can actually experience that. You know, that, and that's what God is. You know, we can he can reveal himself to us like that. Whereas what we're seeing, experiencing in this world, you know, in this, you know, mundane consciousness, they're just dim, you know, refractions of that light, you know, of that unlimited being. So I was thinking that's really, really wonderful point. And then the whole watering the root of the tree, you know, concentrating our loving propensities. Do you guys want to
No.
say something about that?
Well, I was just thinking about how last night I spent like 2 hours, speaking with a girl, trying to convince her that, 3 hours trying to convince her that you don't have to do all this different external things. All you have to do is love Krishna, and it'll solve all your problems.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult avail, to say the least. But I think that there was some benefit in the end. But you know, people just understood this simple thing, and that's actually the thing about bhakti, and it's so simple. Just fix your mind upon Krishna. Just try to love Krishna. If you can do that simple thing, then you will have success in your Krishna consciousness and in your life. You'll feel happy because all you've done, you've managed to love the root of the tree.
The root.
That's as simple as that, because you see everybody. And she was saying, well, you need to do this inner work. You got to work on this and that and this. I said, how could you be envious if you love Krishna?
Yeah.
How could you be get angry and hate someone if you loved Krishna? How could you be racist if you love Krishna? How could you be depressed if you love Krishna? That solves all of our problems. That heals everything.
Well, and it's not like you have, like, okay, maybe you do have some trauma that you have to work out or something like that, but by making Krishna the focus of your life, then those things will just come naturally. You know, you'll find a way to heal. You know, you need some psychological healing, or that'll come naturally.
It gives direction to that.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Like
yeah.
What Chaitanya Charan Prabhu.
Yeah.
Were you in that class?
I was. That was a really nectar class.
Yeah, he's the first point, and you know, getting past your past.
Wait, I have one more point though about what Kirtaneshwar was saying. I almost called him Prabhupada. What Kirtaneshwar was saying. He, you know, about like just having to love Krishna. That's why Krishna book is so powerful and it's so important for devotees to. Are you holding your ear because you can't hear me?
Oh no! I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, you're just trying to get every drop of nectar right into there. Well, so it's so important to read Krishna book because, you know, the point is to love Krishna, but how can you love Krishna if you don't know who Krishna is? So this book is so important because it shows you. Sorry, we can't ever be together in the same room. Next time we'll just go in different rooms because this doesn't work. But
we're gonna
Krishna, you know,
you three.
Yeah. So that's why this book is so important. And it's so cool. Like you were saying, Dr. Jacob, about how Prabhupada's just like laying it out, just laying it on thick in the beginning of this introduction. He's just letting it all, you know, go. But for anybody who's like spiritually, you know, hungry, then when they're hearing this, it's actually like it's like a very good trailer for a movie. Like as we're reading, I really want to get into the book now. You know, I want to hear about Krishna. Who is this person? Who am I supposed to be loving? Who is the root of this tree? So Prabhupada's so expert at doing that. You know, for people who are sincere, he really churns that. That's why I'm very grateful for this actually. To read Krishna book.
Yeah, I haven't read the whole thing through myself. Maybe like a third of it or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nectar.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's everything when you read the Krishna book. It's my favorite Prabhupada book, actually.
Man, there's times, I'm laughing, just cracking up, like, and then like the next page, I'm like crying. It invokes every emotion.
Because you're getting this, you know, first, I mean, I love it because in the first section it's like Krishna, he's loving child and he's playing with his coward friends. And then then all of a sudden it hits you with this
demon
Jarasadhana is invading And Krishna just, I mean, he just annihilates an entire army by himself. And it just describes the carnage.
Yeah,
and
that was a little.
You've read that, you know, like
Yeah.
the carnage is, you know, there's just bodies of elephants and pools of blood and heads. You know, it was like Krishna was there in one sense, and he didn't even have to fight them because he's faster than the speed of mind. He just, you know, they were just marching on him, and then they were carnage. I just imagine it like that, you know, because he's shooting arrows so fast they can't even see him. You know, it's just imagine you're looking at an army, and then all of a sudden it's just like it's just a carnage, you know, and there's just this guy flying on a giant bird.
But he's never.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, as I said, it's all nectar. But then, I mean, that warrior pastimes of Krishna, they really attracted me deeply.
They were off-putting.
Krishna's a warrior too, and Krishna's a lover, and he's everything.
Yeah.
And Krishna was actually, you know, he was a.
But in those pastimes too, like, you know, where he's killing all these demons and stuff, it's almost like you can tell, like, just from the way that it's described, that Krishna's detached from it. You know, he's not like super invested in this. He's just always like happy, even though, like you're saying, all this carnage is happening, and he's like.
That's the beauty of Krishna, is he rides in with a flower garland and takes him out. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I am. I like this whole idea here. I like this book. I like the format that we have going here. Mukunda Das Prabhu really brought up a very good point, where someone who is relatively new to bhakti, you know, me, we can have this format where I can ask you guys who are much more learned down the path all these questions, because there's so many new people coming on now. You know, there are so many new people coming to bhakti. Our little program that we run here in Rochester is just, we have new people showing up every Saturday, and they're like, oh, what is this? I heard about this. I heard it was cool. What is it? You know, and so I really think that there's something going on in this country right now. There's like a wave of bhakti happening. It's like, I don't know what it would be, like the third or fourth generation, maybe, since Srila Prabhupada was here, but I love it. I love this, the opportunity to share with you guys. We got to kind of wrap it up right now. We got about 2 minutes left on Eastern Central Time. But I wanted to just let everyone know that we're going to be doing this podcast on Saturdays and Sundays at 2:00 Eastern Central Time, and then whatever time that is out in the Wild West for you guys are. Out in Arizona, it's beautiful. My aunt and uncle lived out there in Arizona. It's beautiful out there.
Where'd they live?
What time is that out there for you guys?
It's 11 to 12.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Okay. So
where do they live?
I think they actually lived in Tucson, actually. Yeah, I remember my uncle, he was kind of a wild man. He had a bowl of rattlesnake tails on his coffee table when he walked in, and he was like, yeah, these are all the snakes I killed, and some of them I ate and some of them I didn't. And I was like a little kid at the time. I was like 9 years old, and I was like, wow, you're so cool. I didn't get scared. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap it up by saying the Maha Mantra 3 times. And if everyone wants to unmute themselves, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay too. But I'll lead it off for everybody. All right. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All right.
Srila
Thank you guys so
Prabhupada
much.
ki
Jai.
We'll see
Nice
you
to meet you,
later.
Jake.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet you,
you
Jake.
too. Looking forward
See
to
you next
talking
week.
to you guys later. Yeah.
Okay.
Jai.
See you.
Yeah, he's sweet. Dang it.
That was fun.